Fuckers. Isn't it nice to fuck horses? So it's next. We take that beautiful block of body parts, we place it in our favorite place.
The film you're about to see
soaked up that delicious body and
One deputy sheriff in Wyoming is so frustrated with the mutilation mystery.
So each
highly cautious culture contact between highly developed extraterrestrials and our Earth planetary civilization, then one of the primary considerations that we must deal with is the problem of culture shock. In any possible contact between civilizations, such as I've described, I think that the superior civilization would be very careful to slowly condition the subject culture to its presence,
is a mystery which has
so
haunted
as not
ranchers
to
and law
induce
enforcement for
what
the past decade. The mutilation of
label as
animals,
culture shock, which is a
especially
very
cattle, throughout the
profound
United States and
psychological,
Canada. Since the
sociological,
first broadcast,
philosophical,
mutilations have
Due to the
continued.
random nature of some
Perhaps
scenes,
because
medical guidance for children
Perhaps
is
because
advised.
it's easier to accept
institutional.
However, in the past few months, since September of last year, I have received 12 revelation reports from sheriff's offices, all relating to bizarre encounters not
For a long
credited.
period of time.
One of us happened to be on September 16th,
So option of even on
this ranch land, about 30 miles east of Colorado Springs, raising cattle has been their life, and neither has seen anything like the dead cow they found He has gotten his local crime lodge
Ja, ze gaan van hier bij ze kracht iets met kapsels doen ja. Er nou men de schele kaps en de schele zet me. Die af de inbox is wel gips die het ze er wel voor. Ze ze kracht kan zijn maar niet weer lief de schele. Ze is net over we ja bro. Ze is niet weer. Ze is er was niet over ja bro ja.
Checking the area where they took cows, some tall, say the upper branches, just in case we had mutilations in other parts of the country, or the possibility of the animals being dropped, removed from where they were killed and dropped in the area where they were being found. There were no broken branches, no tracks of any kind, human or otherwise, led to or from
maybe
the
even
animals. The
if it
sheriff
was some
stayed
kind of
away
a
from
poison
it
or something that they're using
after
to
he
kill
saw
them,
what
or
he
how
did
they are
see,
using
and
it to kill them.
there was no explanation of what had happened to the animals. According to the rancher, the night before they had been seen in good health. Nothing was wrong with them. The next day they showed up dead and
were like
mutilated.
the one in Colorado on the
Another
Desertus
interesting
Ranch.
fact, a few
Half
days
the udder
after
removed, teats cut,
we
and
received a
rectums
report
poured
from a
out,
woman who lived in the
all
area
without signs of
of
blood.
a real dark-colored
The Wyoming
helicopter
State
with a sling
veterinarian said
attached
about one of
underneath,
those cows,
flying
quote,
near the
"It was
area where the
dead before it was
mutilations
mutilated
that had
by
taken
cutting it.
place, where the bodies of
Mutilation was
the
not done
carcasses
by
of
an
the
animal.
animals were found.
And in a Carpenter, Wyoming
And
case,
that's not
the
the only
veterinarian wrote in
time
his
a
necropsy
helicopter
report,
had been reported prior
right front and
to
rear mammary
or
glands
immediately
missing,
after
left front
the
and rear
mutilation.
teats
There
missing,
seemed to be in
vulvular
the area
area missing
one time or
approximately
another.
5 inches into
None
the
of
pelvis,
these
leaving
choppers had
rectum
been
intact. Hole in center of
identified,
skull,
no identifying
approximately
marks.
2 millimeters
All the
in
reports
diameter.
come in that
On the
the
surface
choppers
of the
were
skull,
silent.
and 1 millimeter in
And
diameter
I
on the
have
inside
never heard of
the
a silent
skull.
helicopter. They were
No
always making some
evidence of
type of noise.
gunshot.
But these reports were that
Cause of death,
there was no noise.
possible injection of material into brain with unknown object. Lab analysis found nothing. Who or what is killing and mutilating these animals? Why?
Descriptions of dark and silent helicopters, as well as unidentified bright lights, came up in almost every conversation about the cattle mutilation mystery.
Most everyone
Some
in the
people
Western
suggested
United
that the
States heard
Cobra
about cattle
helicopter developed for
mutilations in
air attacks in
1975.
Vietnam was a quiet helicopter.
And a couple of years later, in 1977, most people thought cattle mutilations had gone away.
We went to
They
Fort
shouldn't
Carson,
The number
an
of
Army
newspaper
base in
articles
Colorado.
declined.
We filmed a Cobra in
And
operation.
ranchers, many of them, stopped reporting their dead and mutilated cows to law enforcement.
I would
But the cattle
suspect
mutilations
that the
never did
carcasses
stop.
are being left by design.
And by the spring of
We asked the
1979,
pilot to go
United
out 1
States Senator
mile,
Harrison
circle,
Schmidt
and
in
fly
New
back
Mexico
over us at 500
was
feet.
concerned
Our
enough to
particular
call
culture
for a
wonder
conference in
as to,
Albuquerque on April
what is
20th
happening.
to talk about
Who's
cattle
doing
mutilations.
this? If we are
And I began
dealing
wondering
with,
again, what was
surreptitious
going on?
covert
In the
The
past few
Cobra
months,
was definitely
I've traveled
dark,
through
but
Wyoming,
never silent,
New Mexico,
especially on
and Colorado,
takeoffs and
exploring this
landings.
mystery. I've talked with journalists, law enforcement people, ranchers, and scientists. They have shown me their photographs,
When we
their
first
reports, and their
started
files.
hearing reports about the cattle
In this
mutilations here at
program,
Fort
you will
Carson,
hear the
Colorado,
testimonies of many of
we
these
often
people
wondered ourselves what type
who
of
have been involved
helicopter
with this puzzling
had the
phenomenon over the
capability
past
of
decade.
lifting such an animal
Some of their
from one
statements
side
might
to
shock
another.
you,
It's
but they're all part
there's
of
not
this
too many
amazing
helicopters
story
in the local area that
that I
have that
call
capability that
a
I've seen
strange harvest.
around here. There certainly are not any here at Fort Carson except for the much larger helicopters. And because of the noise that would generate from these helicopters, no animal is going to sit still to allow these helicopters to get within any close proximity of them as they make their approach or land to the area.
Is there such thing as a silent helicopter?
No, not of a completely silent helicopter, no. The helicopter will always make some sort of noise that will scare an animal away that is not used to that type of noise. From the reports that we've read and heard on news and newspapers, it would require somebody of great ability to perform these acts than anybody that I know of in this particular area. Certainly not the military. If I had to choose between aliens of some sort coming down and doing these things to the animals and lifting the animals, as compared to
In
having
September
a helicopter of our
1957,
size
on the King Ranch in
or
the San
smaller
Luis Valley
helicopters
of Colorado,
doing these
an
things,
Appaloosa
I
mare
would
called Snippy was
probably be
found
more
dead
apt
and
to
stripped of
choose
flesh from the
alien,
aircraft. Some said this was the
aspect
work of
of
flying
the cattle
saucers.
problems
Who
in
or
the
whatever did it,
military
no
when you
one
use a
knows.
small helicopter.
Since that time, and perhaps even earlier in this century,
That there's, in
thousands of cattle,
contrast to
horses,
the
and other
laser,
animals have been cut up in
no,
strange ways throughout
surrounding
the United States,
scabs or
Canada,
black
Puerto Rico,
late
Panama,
summer,
the Canary
or the
Islands,
early
and
spring.
possibly other South American and European
One of the
countries.
investigators I've been working with
Some
for
people
5 years
call
had dropped in
it
the
cattle
office. and
mutilation.
We discussed what
Whatever
was
it's
new.
called, it's a strange
And he
harvest.
said, well, the thing is, now I'll tell you.
Parts
He
missing
says,
are
I'm
usually
inclined to
an
agree
ear,
with him,
an eye, the tongue,
that,
the lower jaw is stripped of
who
all
is doing
flesh,
this now
the
is
sexual
very
organs are cut
possibly
out,
creatures
the rectum is
not
poured
of this
out,
planet. Now
and
that,
in some
that shakes
cases,
you up a little
the
bit.
blood is
Creatures not of
gone.
this planet. You're thinking of
Adding to the
Rogers and
mystery
things
is
like
lack
this.
of tracks or other
But
evidence.
that's the way it is seriously right
Mutilated cattle have been found
now. It's
on wet
very,
sand
very
or
possible
rain-soaked
that
ground
these
with no
mutilations
tracks around
are
them,
being
not even
done
their
by
own.
creatures from outer space.
There's a state patrol officer in
And
Dulce, New
mutilations
Mexico, who
continued.
has not only seen UFOs,
Between May
but received a substance that
1979
dropped from a
and January
strange craft
1980,
that hovered over Taos,
over
New
30
Mexico.
cattle in Canada have reportedly suffered this strange fate.
Gay Valdez
Iowa
has
had
been
8
investigating
reported
cattle
mutilations in the last
since
months of
1976.
1979. Other states that had reported mutilations in 1979 were Colorado, Wyoming, New Mexico,
something else about it.
Arkansas,
As far as
Kansas and Nebraska,
and
and Texas.
being involved in it, I think it would have been broken a long time ago.
Who or what is killing
what's left?
and mutilating
Either
these
government or
animals?
extraterrestrial.
You first have to operate under the premise that you believe that some government agency would be responsible for that. To me, it's ludicrous. It's almost ridiculous to conceive that that would be a possibility. You're dealing with, if you're talking about the CIA, you're talking about some government spy agency. It just doesn't make sense to me that they would be involved in random mutilating cattle on individual ranches or farms. If they were involved in something like that, they would have the resources to do it under controlled conditions. So I've never even entertained that thought, even though it's one of the theories that have been thrust into this investigation.
Could it be cults, predators, helicopters, UFOs?
Heat is generated, which turns cell water to steam and vaporizes away.
Wyoming.
Lives a rancher farmer.
Could a laser
get
wire
his strange cuts
His
found
father
on
and
mutilated
grandfather
cattle
was part of the
ranchers.
answer. We asked Dr.
He
Arlen
settled down
Myers
here in
to believe that
1972
whoever's
with his
doing
wife and 8
mutilating
children.
must be using some kind of aircraft.
In September 1976, on a ridge about 2 miles from his trailer house, Mr. McGuire, his brother, and his cousin Mark Murphy
The
found 2
Greenhorn Mountains
mutilated
in
cows.
southeastern Colorado rise above the sagebrush cattle grazing lands
The
that stretch
following
for thousands of
hypnosis
square
session
miles around
with Dr.
Walsenburg.
Leo Sprinkle, Director of Counseling and Testing at the University
Here
of
in
Wyoming
July
in
of
Laramie,
1979,
is Pat
Rancher
McGuire's
C.E.
effort to
Potts
recall more
found one of his
details about an
prize bulls
extraordinary
dead
incident that
and
happened to
mutilated.
him at the time of the mutilations.
We were
Dr.
passing
Sprinkle
down
is one
this
of the world's
road, and
leading
there's a
authorities in
thunderstorm
cases
coming up
involving
behind us, and we
UFOs and
rushed
human
down, but it
abductions.
smelt this animal
He has
as it went
personally
by.
worked with 47 people
So we
since
come back to
1967.
check on it.
Pat McGuire was his 28th
And
case
found it'd
and the
been
first
mutilated.
concerning cattle mutilations.
We examined it, and it's
Whenever you're ready, just go right ahead. You can talk and describe your
sexual
experiences.
organs was all taken out and everything, and one of its eyes was taken out, and its eyelashes was taken out.
What about the idea that it's predators?
It's Sunday.
Well, there wasn't no predators. There's not a predator bothered it since
Me
it's
and-
been
me and
dead.
Mark's.
Couldn't have been killed by a predator.
Was driving around checking the cows.
Because all the surgical work
The
was
portions of
done
these
by
animals they are taking,
expert.
I haven't the slightest
I really
idea.
didn't think there's anything
There's a
to
reason
it
for it.
till
It's
it
not
come
haphazard.
Come up on
There's a
home
pattern
to
to
me.
it.
Now I know
I don't know.
it's
I think it's
bound to been
a awakened
mutilated.
seeking. What else can
Anybody
we
knows
do? If we do have
see good, could see it
beings from outer
was.
space doing
The
this,
sex
with
organs.
the capabilities to do
we
things
have
like
never
this,
found any blood on them.
what
My brother,
can we
my
as a
brother
human
said
race
it must
do?
have been from
No blood, no.
sex
they,
cult from the
Have
university.
the knowledge and
The
the
only tracks that
technology
we
that
found
it
on the
looks like
first
they
one
have
out here
were some
messing around.
tripod tracks. And they
That's all
found
he
some
lives.
like,
Maybe it's a
Catch
waking
him
seeking.
here.
I can't see anything else
I
to
didn't
do.
know.
Okay, Pat,
The thing is kind of strange because we
was
have never
being
seen anything like
conducted
that before.
either by our own intelligence agencies or by UFO
craft. We were looking through the scope.
All the states it's happened. It's a
Right.
mystery. As far as I'm concerned, whatever
I
you
said,
hear about.
Kamar. I
I
said,
got
let's
called
get the hell out of here. I said,
this
that
summer
star
from
is
Canada
coming. I says,
on two
Either that or
mutilations.
my
They called
eyes
me,
are
and the way
bad.
they described this, it's just typical of
he
our
said, it's coming.
mutilations we had in
Change from
75.
If it goes into Canada,
from
and there have been reports that
pure
they've
white
come up
to
out of
orange.
Puerto Rico and some other parts of
I
the
said,
world,
Mark,
if it goes on to an international scale, do you think that would
picking
exclude
up a
satanic
cow.
cults and military operations
said,
in our
yeah.
country?
Well,
Hear that cow?
yeah. It'd be inclined to.
Hell, she's
I wasn't
gone.
thinking.
And if
And it
there
seems to be
is,
hovering
what is
there
left?
over the ridge.
Right, having picking up the cow.
Can you see the cow?
I don't know.
No, but you can hear the cow.
Right,
The
terrible.
Colorado Bureau of
Terrible.
Investigation
Bald.
received
Terrible.
203
Worse
reports
than
of
I ever heard a
suspected
cow.
mutilations in a 9-month
Well, I've
period
heard a
between
few.
April and December of
Okay,
1975.
Then all of a sudden,
Colorado State University's diagnostic
I just
laboratory
threw a valve,
received
a
35
switch.
carcasses. Only 19 were in good enough condition to perform live examination. Of those 19, 9, or about half, were considered to be cut with a sharpness fork.
underlying
The
tissue
rest were
is
generally described as
unaffected, of course, by the
deactivated
knife
predators.
Compared to the laser burn, the surface of the
It's true,
removed
the
tissue
cattle in
was
Colorado are
dark
going to
and
die each
somewhat
year from
burned.
hard winters, seriously scalp cutting strikes, predator attacks, and other natural causes, a few angled edges. And here's a perfect oval, cut on a steer northeastern Colorado, another favorite spot for 6, 1979. Tex Graves, former sheriff of Logan County, insists the 93 mutilated carcasses he investigated were not natural destructive flesh. 2 deputies from the Castilla County Sheriff's Office took us to the mutilation site 5 days after they had first examined the fresh carcass.
Just unbelievable. Well, you could take an animal and do this too without leaving some kind of track, some kind of evidence behind, such as cigarette butts, matches, handprints, footprints, but there was nothing.
This looks kind of dry.
The animal looked almost 300 feet, and it was something that
was just like a tip
I didn't really want to believe in. And we probably hadn't had 5 or 6 others before I really did believe something strange was going on. We had one up north where we believed the animal was sterilized and was alive when it was mutilated. Eyes, ears, the tongue, the rectum area was taken out.
The area right around where the cow was, the area with the carcasses, deep moved
That just
red,
doesn't make sense.
that's where you can hear that.
That mutilation in San Luis, Colorado happened around September 29, 1979. While its ear, tongue, rectum, 2 weeks later, there was another one in Chama, New Mexico. I asked Dr. Albert McChesney,
And by December, there has
pathologist and
been more
coordinator of the
scattered mutilation
diagnostic
reports in
laboratory at
Kansas,
Colorado State
Nebraska,
University in Fort
Wyoming,
Collins,
and
Colorado.
Iowa. And the
His
number
lab
of
did all the
mutilations
analysis
being
work on the
investigated by the
35
Royal
carcasses
Canadian
sent in
Mounted
from the
Police
Colorado
climbed
Bureau
above
of
30.
Investigation. Lou Gerardo is the chief
of course,
investigator
surmised
for
the
the
animal
district
was
attorney's
dead before
office
they
in
were
Trinidad.
removed.
But how would the hole be dug where its head is? It's been moving to dig that hole.
Many times when an animal dies, they go through an agonal phase just before they die, and they will paddle their legs, or they will beat their head or swing it back and forth, or they might even have some central nervous system involvement, which would make them be incoordinate, make them lie down and to struggle for some little time, and this would dig the hole where the animal's head is. Now, I'm not trying to discredit the fact that there can be mutilations, but I just want to show that there is a very good chance that something else could have caused it.
Here is the very first cow that Sheriff Tex Graves and Sterling ever went out on. Would a natural predator ever strip a jaw clean like this one?
I cannot tell you whether this would be from a sharp instrument or from scavenging. Many times when an animal dies again, the pressure will cause their tongue to extend, and this will allow animals to start eating on the front end of the animal. And if so, this cleaning of the jaw and the cheek muscles would be just a natural extension of that entry into the body tissues.
But doesn't that look like a nice clean curve of a cut around there in that lower jaw?
It does. It looks quite clean, but once again, we have to have all of our facts together before we can draw a conclusion. If I could see whether hair was cut or if there were deeper incisions, perhaps I could tell you specifically. But to look at one like this, I would say it's within the realms of either a scavenging or a sharp knife mutilation. It could be either way.
One other place in 1976 north of town on a very hard pasture, almost like hard brick. We found tripod marks 12 inches across. The tripod marks were 14 feet apart. We found one set that had gone in the ground roughly 8 inches. And it would take a good post hole digger or our shovel to dig in like this. It indicated something very heavy had set down in this area, yet there was no tracks leading from it nor to it. Almost nightly when this was going on, we could pick out a very brilliant, huge, brilliant light in the sky. We had a newsman take pictures of it with a very high-powered lens, but all we got out of this was the movement of it and the light showing very brilliant. Several times we observed those smaller lights come out of this aircraft and then come down toward Earth. This huge, brilliant light would hang in the air, and then when it would move, it could move up and down backwards, forwards, travel very rapidly, and after a while these smaller lights would join up with the larger one, and then they'd disappear.
Aren't saying more.
Another law enforcement officer who saw strange lights back in 1975 and 76 is Bill Waugh.
They're so knowledgeable.
Bill was the undersheriff in Elbert County for 8 years, working with Sheriff George Yarnell. He retired in 1979.
I don't understand that.
Possibly when I was sitting out there one night, the sheriff was up in a plane.
I don't know why they don't. I don't know why they get angry, and I don't know why
I saw this
they can't stop it
come up
if they're so knowledgeable.
From the ground.
At one point in the hypnosis session, Judy doesn't understand why she could see her daughter Cindy in the car one minute and gone the next.
Breathing deep and easy, let yourself relax. You can be aware of yourself standing by the side of the car. You can be aware of yourself standing in the back.
And then
now let yourself be aware of where Cindy is.
90-degree right angle turn. And in the cockpit, I could see
I know I have a feeling of fear.
Red one.
Okay, let yourself go on through the experience.
Either a green or a blue. One man looked out of his window at night just before he went to bed, and the horse was standing out there. He got up the next morning, put down the breakfast, and happened to glance out. The horse had
I just visualize her on a table.
Right there. It was in the summertime.
Okay, what happens
They
next?
had a tree. They had a house and 2 trees.
I'm afraid that it's going to happen. What they did to
They
me.
all had the windows open. They had dogs around the place. No one heard it. A dog party. No one heard a thing.
No, I don't want to.
And that was right up by the house.
You know it's all right. Just let yourself go on.
It's like a spotlight.
Just relax deeply.
It's shining down on the back
Know that
of my
everything's
car.
going to be okay. You see it? You see Cindy on the table?
It's like it has substance
What happens next?
to it.
A Colorado man named Russell Lawson has a livestock removal service. He's been working in 9-county area doing timber in Colorado Springs since 1977, picking up dead livestock.
I can see it squirming.
Over a 2-year period, he hauled off about 4,000 dead animals, including several mutilated
And it's like it's being sucked up. It's
My first
taken into some sort of chamber.
in 77.
It's a little
It was
round,
in the late
tiny room.
afternoon, late evening, and frankly scared the hell out of me because I wasn't used to seeing things
I
like
get
that.
nauseated.
The thing
And once they like
that
this,
scared me and
now they're
so much was when livestock die, they normally will
Okay, what's happening
lay
now?
and thrash in the
It's done
grass
very
or in
quickly.
the
They're just
dirt.
examining
This
it
cow
like this.
looked like she'd
I'm
just
so
been
afraid that they're going to cut her or something.
actually just
The calf
picked
doesn't
up
die immediately.
or turned over, and none of the grass or the dirt, anything
For some
around her
reason,
was
the calf's heart isn't taken.
disturbed
They don't
or
listen. They just
destroyed
throw it in
anyway
and
from
say
her
words.
diet. She hadn't had any blood. The blood was
And then I can see the
drained
calf.
I would say that it would be difficult with the
I've been examining 2 photographs of alleged cattle mutilations in Logan County, and they show 2 quite distinct pictures. One is a large hole that has surrounding burns and charred material. The other is a very nice clean cut and has relatively normal underlying tissue. The first picture, I think, conceivably could have been caused by a burning or lasing type instrument, although I think it would be very difficult, given the state of the art today, at least in my knowledge, to bring a
Dr.
device
Sprinkle
to
stated
be able
afterward
to
that Judy
inflict
Doherty
severe
is, in
damage
his
on
professional
a piece of
opinion,
livestock.
a sincere, honest, and
More
honest
reality, it would be easier to do.
What happened before our camera was her
Precise.
first complete and vivid reminder of her 1970 trade experience in Texas.
Like a
Not
straight
had like an animal. An animal has to grab the body. It has to tear in order to remove that tissue. And this has all been smooth.
What's your own personal
You can see as it's
theory or feeling about what was doing the mutilation?
But it has a tube.
Well, I feel strongly about the
It's fairly flush. Notice
What
the
do you think
dark
the implications
some type
of
of burns or laser
around
the eyes on particular cattle that are picked
this
up
tissue
has had
at deeper and deeper levels.
marbly
The
clear
laser
look,
evaporates
which looks like
water,
it's
and that's why we're seeing
flash
all the
burn
smoke.
or
This piece of flesh that we're using has no blood in it. But even if it did, it would have the same bloodless sort of charred appearance after the tissue was removed.
I feel the
In trying to duplicate what I saw in the pictures, if I were to try to deepen this hole, there are some limitations with the instrument that I'm using. The maximum point of focus of the beam is at a certain length, and in order to make this hole deeper, I would need to move the instrumentation deeper toward the flesh and just continue to burrow the hole.
In the hospital, it is powered by AC current from a wall plug. Experienced medical technicians need 20 minutes to get the laser unit ready for surgery. Clearly, it's not a convenient tool to drive around remote ranch lands. But because of the alleged burns found on some of the animals, a few people have jumped to the conclusion that naval lasers are involved.
I'm just going to make a similar size circle and try to duplicate this
blood
one.
vessels as they penetrate tissue, so there is little or no bleeding. The depth of penetration is controlled by the power of the beam and length of time it is on. When the laser beam hits tissue,
it appears to be
simply
two little men.
With a knife, when I remove this piece of skin.
What you are about to hear is perhaps the first and only known eyewitness account of a mutilation. Because Dr. Leo Sprinkle is recognized as one of the world's leading authorities on cases involving UFOs and human abduction, he was contacted by the Aerial Phenomenon Research Organization in Tucson, Arizona, to do hypnosis work with this woman. Her name is Judy Doherty. On a clear moonlit night in May 1973, Judy was driving back from a bingo game in Houston, Texas.
For some reason,
she and her mother, daughter Cindy, and brother and sister-in-law watched a strange, bright light hover in the sky. After that night, she suffered terrible headaches and anxiety. In 1978, she underwent one hypnosis session which brought out part of her unusual experience, but not all of it. She also had several psychiatric and personality evaluations, all with results in the normal human behavior range. The second hypnosis session with Dr. Sprinkle occurred on March 13th, 1980.
I can't even see that they were concerned. They were just like doing a job that evidently it affects them too. And it has to do with somehow nuclear waste or testing or...
I'm gonna fuck this.